Hey everybody, I'm Steve Van Diest. I am the co-host of the Sharpen podcast brought to you by Acumen. Acumen is a CEO and business owner growth community. And let's be honest, business owners, founders, entrepreneurs, they're a bit crazy. And you get a loan, and if you don't have yourself a great community that's going to help sharpen you, challenge you, inspire you, you get more crazy. And so that's who we are. Today on this episode, we're going to talk about what does it look like to start, to found, to grow, to figure out profits in a deeply, deeply vision driven, mission driven organization, navigating over multiple different economies and political climates. Today, we have an expert in this area. I'm excited to introduce Frank. Frank is a member of the Acumen Summit team here in Colorado. Frank, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you started, and what was the vision first behind this 12, 13 years ago?
Yeah, so thanks, Steve. So Frank Anello, I'm the co-founder and executive director of Project Worthmore. We have been working in the refugee community now, approaching 15 years in February. And what started out as a makeshift family helping from their home, as we sponsored a family from Burma back in 2009, and really quickly realizing that there are a lot of refugees that lived amongst us.
Mhm.
And we had lived here for 8 years and did not know that until we walked into our church. And our church said, we're going to be working with refugees. And Frank, you're going to start helping the first family. And big picture is our family always wanted to do missions work overseas. It took us 8 years after living here to realize that there are people that live here amongst us from all over the world. And we didn't have to cross the ocean. We just needed to cross the street to serve our neighbors that have come here to start a new life. We quickly saw a lot of barriers that were in place for people accessing care and services to get on their feet. And instead of duplicating things, we said, let's talk to the community. Let's figure out what those barriers are. Let's remove them and provide those services to help people become legal citizens and productive people in our community, giving them a new shot at a second chance in life.
I love that. Let's just start big level, top level. How many people groups, immigrants, refugees do you have approximate data for the Colorado Front Range? How many are coming in annually over the last 14 years, or what's the
Yeah.
demographics there?
Yeah, so that's going to change obviously on political climate. So
Mhm.
if there's a Democrat in office, we're going to see a lot more refugees. And a prime example would be during Obama's last year. And for everyone to know, every September, the president gets to sign on how many refugees we're going to welcome into the United States. They set that number, and then it gets voted in and approved. And Obama's last year, he approved 100,000 refugees to come into the United States. We ended up resettling about 85. We didn't hit the cap.
Wow.
Um, and then your following year, we now go into a Trump administration. So we go into a Trump administration, and then within the first year, Trump took that number and said, we're only going to resettle 45,000.
Mm.
And then by the end of his first term, it was 7,000. And then all of a sudden, now we're back to a Democrat administration under Biden, and Biden goes back to 100,000.
Yeah.
And now we're back to Trump, and instead of 45,000 or 7,000, there's nobody coming.
Yeah.
So, and historically, under a Democratic office, Colorado would traditionally see about 2,000 out of
Uh-huh.
that 85,000 on an annual basis.
I remember that because as I was running a mattress store chain and a bunch of stores, we were very passionate about refugees and immigrants as well. And we would hire folks from Iraq and Somalia, and we partnered with another refugee very similar to you. I didn't know you then, and I wish I had, but I think you were
Yeah.
starting at the time. We were just playing around, and we were partnering with another refugee center, but those numbers would change. How many
Yeah.
people now, we're talking 14 years later,
Yeah.
you and your wife started this deeply missional thing, a calling from God to take care of people, and it's on the heart of God.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful I met you 3 years ago. How many folks are you serving now, and how many countries are you serving now in your building?
Yeah. So On our staff, we are a staff of 45, and we have about 30 languages just spoken within our team on staff here. We're serving anywhere between 5 and 6,000 individuals on an annual basis, from probably 30 different countries. What started out at the beginning with predominantly serving refugees in 2009 from Burma, Bhutan, and Somalia. Every 4 or 5 years, there's a shift, there's a change. And then it went to Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan. And then it went to Democratic Republic of Congo, Central African Republic. And now we're back to really nobody, but then we had Ukraine,
Yeah.
then we had Afghanistan again once the US pulled out of Afghanistan back in 21.
Yeah.
So it's going to fluctuate, but on an annual basis with all of our services, we're serving about 5 to 6,000 annually. We have over 9,000 patients now in our dental clinic system.
Yeah, tell me more about the departments that you're serving in your building because it's funny. You oftentimes say, "Well, I'm an executive director of a nonprofit," and
Yeah,
you've established yourselves, but you've got these different streams that are going on. There's
yeah,
different revenue streams. There's different departments. Tell me more about that because you have this big vision with a purpose to take care of, to resource, love on people, be the hands and feet of Jesus.
yeah.
And so that is a massive vision, but you're really doing it like in 4 or 5 different ways. Tell us more about that.
Oh, yeah. Like it's interesting. It's like, okay, so you've got a dental clinic. You have a dental clinic? Yeah. And you also have a farm. You also have
Yeah.
case managers. You also have an English language program. You also have a fresh food program. Like we're people would say, you guys are kind of all over the place, but we're really not all over the place. What we're doing is providing exactly what the community has asked for.
Yeah.
And what we're going to expand into, medical, behavior health, legal services, all of that's coming in 2026. So, I mean, we dabble in a lot of different things, but we really take a holistic approach to how we serve people that need to be served. We ask them what they need. We tweak our model. Are there English classes down the street from us? Yes. Is there dental clinics down the street from us? Yes. But we looked at what are the barriers for people to access those things,
Hmm.
and then we remove them and we implement those changes here to making sure that we're best serving the community.
Yeah, and so I think you're holding as a CEO, executive director of Project Worthmore. I think and you've been on part of Acumen for about 2 years, a little over 2 years. I
Yeah,
think you have the one of more complex leadership positions of anybody sitting in our team. So we've
that's
got
right.
manufacturing, we've got senior housing, we've got
Yeah.
construction supply houses. But when you're talking your leadership team alone, how many languages are represented? Native languages are represented and cultures are represented on your leadership team.
So my senior management team, we have one person that speaks 7 languages. We have another individual that speaks 5 languages. And then our dental director, I'm thinking about, speaks 5 different languages as well. So, when we say we have 30 languages on staff, we get to cheat because some have like 6 or 7.
Yes. So tell me, yeah. So
And
finding, so when I talk to other CEOs and we coach other CEOs and help them grow their revenue and optimize themselves, very rarely is their leadership team not look like them. If they have a Latino descent, then most likely their leadership team is going to be Latino because it's culturally they
yeah,
understand it. Their staff change. A lot of companies have a lot of different ethnic staff. But on a
yeah.
leadership team, the cultural differences, how you deal with conflict, how you deal with vision and mission and operations, completely different between how do you deal with that over the years? Because it's changed.
Yeah, this is my plug for Acumen. This is where I plug Steve. And like honestly, like there's been a tremendous amount of growth in the last couple of years since I joined Acumen. And there's one thing to be a visionary, which is exactly who I am. And then a lot of times visionaries don't have the skill set to manage people. They don't have the operational skills. All right. So you got to go out and got to learn those things. And a very difficult thing, as we all know as leaders, is managing people. And we're not just managing people, we're managing people who speak different languages, come from different parts of the world, different religion, different education backgrounds. So it's a very complex team that we work with.
Hmm.
And so I've learned to making sure there's We have to do cultural sensitivity trainings. We're doing team building trainings. We're bringing in experts to kind of make sure that we understand that how this person might process something versus how you're going to process something. So it's a constant battle. It's a constant, in order to be good at what you do, you've constantly got to be tweaking and trying to improve. And that's, up until 2 years ago, we did not have a senior management team. So that was a whole new piece that we incorporated. It used to just be me driving what we were going to do. And all of a sudden, you start to involve these different pieces and different people who are running different parts of the organization into how we create the future of Project Worthmore.
Yeah, so you're not unlike an entrepreneur that has a vision of saying, "Hey, I'm going to sell this widget or this service," and 14 years later, you're growing, your hair's on fire. But then the piece when you went from being like a teenager to an older, mature organization is when you went into a leadership structure. But also, there's a dynamic that you have to deal with that's businesses deal with as well. But you've got these multi streams of how you guys see revenue. Yes, you're a nonprofit, but
Yeah,
you're run like a business, and you have these
yeah,
really two to three different multi streams, and probably more so coming on soon when you guys are
yeah.
done with your expansion project.
Yeah, and I learned something. So back in, I think it was 2010, as I was creating Project Worthmore, I went and visited a very similar organization of what I envisioned Project Worthmore to be in Minnesota. And I spent a week there kind of spending time with this organization. What I learned from them is they were 95% grant funded.
Mm,
That is a major no-no. And so for us, like we are now at nearly a $5 million operating budget. We have figured out by dental clinic is a prime example. Our dental clinic provides services to the community. We bill Medicaid, we bill private insurance, we have a sliding scale fee. So we've diversified our funds. We now have a program that creates revenue by providing care, which in the
yeah.
nonprofit world is a very unique model, right? So we figured out a way to diversify our funds. So out of $5 million, we got about two of it, let's just say coming from the dental clinic. And then we have another mill that comes from writing grants. But what we won't do when we're writing grants is just chase dollars and create something that isn't needed for the community just to chase those dollars, right?
Hmm.
You have to be very cautious when you're writing a grant because what you don't want to do is create this grant that's not sustainable. You write this grant, your community is relying on it, your staff's relying on it, and if it's not a sustainable model, who suffers? Both the community when the grant runs out. The staff you have to lay off. So you got to be very cautious in how you do those things. We created what's called a careholder model, which is a monthly giving program. The careholder model is a flip on a shareholder model from the for-profit people listening. People invest in your company, they get dollars in return. Careholder, you're investing in Project Worthmore, you're investing in the lives and improving the lives of individuals, and your return is knowing that you've done good for humanity.
Yeah.
So those are different things that we do. We have fundraisers, we build business partners. What we do is how do we get the local broader community to be invested in the work of serving others instead of being relying on grant dollars solely, which isn't a sustainable model.
Yeah. I
And
love
over the years, it's a constant pivot. You're constantly having to change. And the very difficult piece with nonprofit is guess what? You got to start up every January. You're starting fresh.
Yes, and you're starting fresh because maybe the economy, we're in this kind of this funky piece right now where business owners are holding back resources, so maybe they're holding back donations. But also then, like you said, in the political climate, there's a release of funds, there's a pullback of funds. So you as a leader, I love it because we've talked about this before in Acumen. What's a business worth? And we've done things like value builder and exit planning concepts. And if you are a company, for-profit company that's aligned on one revenue stream and it's so laser focused, or maybe it's on one customer, you might get hammered in the future if things just slightly shift. Whereas
Yeah.
you've had to navigate, Frank, and you're a great model to other business owners, is going, could we be multi-stream? Can we pivot in one department, pull back in another department? But the goal, what I heard you say is we're always focused on listening on what our customers need, or our refugees, or our immigrants, or our clients. And so I
Mhm.
love that leadership principle there. What's been your biggest challenge You and your wife started this crazy thing 14
Yeah.
some years ago. What's been the biggest challenge that you've had over the years?
Whew. There's been some big ones. I'd say administration changes are big challenges.
Hmm.
I'd say we have faced eviction as an organization. We have um, currently we're in a massive challenge in regards to political. Here's an interesting thing of where we are right now. So in November, we broke ground on a $8 million renovation of our building. What was the most important piece to me? Making sure that all of our services stayed on site. So had we got creative, we reached out to our partners. We reached out to the city of Aurora. And if you haven't been here, we stayed on site. So we've got a food program on site. We've got trailers in the parking lot. We partnered with the city in another building. That's a challenge in itself. Then we have a big political shift. Now there's no refugees coming whatsoever. We have immigration raids all over our neighborhood. So this is the most challenging. And now we're looking at Medicaid cuts
Yeah.
because of a bill that was passed. We're looking at food stamp cuts. And there's something that's super important to us is like, how do we keep doing what we do? How do we keep our staff happy? How do we keep morale up? And we just keep serving the people we serve. All of our partners, most of our partners, I'd say, have had massive layoffs. And we have been fortunate enough to not have to lay anybody off.
Mm.
We have a lot of federal funding that's tied to our building. We haven't been affected by that. And another example of how we do things too is creating opportunity for people. COVID's another great example. During COVID, we, instead of laying people off, it's like we took our team who we had to work remote. A dental clinic can't work remote, right? So how do you keep your team from being laid off? We didn't lay anybody off. We took our team and said, hey, we're going to keep you being paid, but we're going to go out to the farm because we can work out in an open air environment and we can all contribute to the farm. So we worked on the farm. We started having staff kind of deliver food. We created a screener position for someone once we reopened instead of laying that person off. And then so constantly thinking about taking care of my team as well as taking care of the community is is how we and I'm someone who is an all or nothing kind of person. I don't run a marathon, I run 100 miles, I run 200 miles. Like there is no end. The end is when we're done. That is when it's over.
Well, the good news is God's not called you out of this yet,
That's right.
because although immigration and refugees is lower, there's still people on the ground here that need you, need Carolyn, need Project Worthmore, just like they need a lot of our businesses that are involved in Acumen. If we're not doing what we're doing, we're not being the hands and feet of Jesus. I love how you've grown as a leader. Yeah, 2 years ago when we first met, there wasn't a leadership team. It was hair on fire, and
Yeah.
you're putting out fires and brush fires and forest fires and in Project Worthmore fires, it seemed like every day. But you've got this ability to pivot, to learn, to listen, to self-reflect. And just like a lot of business owners that have co-founded with spouses, that's also a challenge. You guys are great, visionary, high
Yeah.
energy. Tell us more about that, doing it
Yeah,
with your
I
wife.
mean, it's definitely a challenge. Carolyn and I have been together for 30 years. We got together at 21 and 18. And as young adults, we started working together back in the day. We worked in a restaurant together for 5 years. And then we started Project Worthmore together. It's also a big challenge because you don't get to shut it off. No matter how much you want to shut it off, when you're going home to your business partner, it's nearly impossible to shut it off. So that is definitely a big challenge. And I've also grown through Acumen. I'm trying to set up boundaries and in place, try to take care of a lot of those conversations during their workday and treat my co-founder, treat my clinical program director, who is my wife, just like another employee, having regular check-ins throughout the day, including her in those check-ins instead of like, I can brush you off because you're my wife. We'll talk about it at home.
Yeah.
No, that's not the way to do things. And another thing that I wanted to reiterate and that I meant to share was there are times where you feel the burn and the times where you feel like Man, I'm done. Like this is it. Like this is a job, and I just can't do this job anymore. And then at church on Sunday, we were talking about Job, and it was just like, you know what? I leaned into Carolyn at church and I said, it's not a job, it's calling. God's
Mhm.
called us to do this. That's what we're supposed to do. It's supposed to get hard. It's supposed to get hard at times. And if you give up, the next good thing's not going to appear for you. So you got to push through the hard to get to the good. And then it's going to get hard and then it's going to get good. That's just part of being on top as a leader.
It's going to get hard. It's going to get good. It's going to get hard. It's going to get
That's
good. It sounds like a 100-mile race, yet I've never,
right.
I personally, I think that's actually psychotic, but that's what makes Frank so special. There's this perseverance piece about you and Carolyn willing to push through when it's hard and evolved, change your training, but it's so laser focused on surviving. I talk to business owners all the time, and it's like, I just want to sell. I'm going to go for the big exit and sell. But what I love about you is that, yes, in the nonprofit world, there's not an exit, but it's a calling. And so you're constantly having to reevaluate why we exist as a business. I wish more business owners would spend more time with you because if the for-profit businesses listen to the Lord, we're obedient to a calling, the exit really is not that important. He will lead you to it or he may not lead you to it. It may be a transfer, it may be a gift, it may be an ESOP, it may be but it's like, I want to keep having the impact of Frank and Carolyn long after you guys are gone, after God's called you away. I pray that Project Worthmore keeps going on, just like I hope other acumen businesses that are
Yeah,
involved keep going, even past the founder, past the
that's right.
CEO. Okay, so if I'm running around the city and I see Forrest Gump or I see Frank, you probably are like 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night in the summer, running around the city, maybe with a headlamp on. That's where I'd find you about that time. But where would I find Project Worthmore? I'm in the city. I'm on the Front Range. Maybe I'm in Kansas City in one of our other communities, or
Yeah.
in Phoenix, or I'm listening in somewhere, and I want to be a part of Project Worthmore. I want to spend more time with you. How do we find you?
Oh, it's super easy. There's a thing called the internet. And you type in projectworthmore.org. You email Frank. You come visit us at 1666 Elmira on the East Colfax corridor. And there's something about being here
Hmm.
that will make you think very differently about what Frank and his team does on a regular
Yeah.
basis. We get to work with people from all over the world, and we get to transform people's mouths, their language, their careers. We get to change people's lives. We grow food for people. We give people opportunities to be farmers again. And to me, like there's a time I think what people need to do in reality is we all, and I say this a lot, we've all gotten used to pulling into our garages, building privacy fences, closing our blinds when we're at home. And what are we doing? We're shutting and walking around with blinders. We don't even acknowledge the
Hmm.
person next to us. Step out of your comfort zone, come down to East Colfax where you might be a little nervous to do, and realize that there's people from all over the world that are just here to have a better life and a safe opportunity for their kids. And we get to do that. That's what we get to do on a daily basis. And I would encourage every business owner that's listening today to get your business involved because
Yeah.
it'll transform your business. It'll transform your culture at your workplace. When your team comes alongside of us out at our farm on our corporate workday and says, I want to go do a team building event out at the farm with Project Worthmore and their community engagement director. I want to spend 3 hours a day with the farmer from Somalia, the farmer from Mauritania, the farmer from
Yes.
Burma, who's growing food for local restaurants and farmers markets. That's what you guys can do as a business partner. And that's just one opportunity. I got lots of them.
I agree. That is for you, your team. I think a baby step for some business owners. If you're in the Front Range or you're listening somewhere abroad, reach out to Frank. spend a day with Frank walking around. Now, it might be crazy, it might be putting out a fire, it might be
Yeah.
speaking some different languages. When I coach Frank, we sit across the street in the park, and it's surrounded by people that don't look like me, that don't come from where I've come from. And one, I'm here there to encourage Frank, but it's also encouraging me. Come and visit the place. You're going to find something that's going to grab your heart. When we worked with refugees, it was life changing hearing their stories and seeing the progression of how my little business could help someone find a home, become a citizen, become a great member of society. And you guys are doing that on a daily basis. So yes, visit projectworthmore.org, visit Frank. And if you're out of state and you're thinking, gosh, what's going on? There's somebody doing what Frank is doing, probably in
Yep.
your city. So find them, connect with them.
Just not as good as us.
It's just not as good. And here's the challenge to business owners who are listening in the Acumen community and beyond. Frank is a tremendous leader. Oftentimes, like I said before, we're focused on one widget or one service. You'd have a lot to learn from Frank and the diversity, building multicultural teams, bringing about different revenue streams that can help you sustain when some part of your business model is changing. So, just on a very practical business leadership experience, spend some time with Frank. And yes, as a promo, check out Acumen because you're going to meet more leaders like him and you're going to be refined just as he's grown tremendously the last couple of years. So, Frank, thank you so much
Yeah.
for
Thank
hanging
you.
out with me. This is one of
Yeah.
my favorites. We've attempted to do this. I wish we could have talked more about Frank, even in this whole other topic of rest and Sabbath. You just came off an intentional time of resting that really renews you to keep giving. And I think oftentimes that's something I would love people to talk to you personally about. How do you rest so you can keep working? If you're out there and you're a business owner in Kansas City, Phoenix, in Colorado that's going, I'm alone. I'm running pretty siloed. I'm running pretty alone, hot. I'm lacking inspiration. No one's really poking me in the chest. Maybe I think I've got it all together. And a lot of people think you as a business owner have got your stuff together. I would encourage you to check out Acumen. Our website is acumenimpact.com. Learn more about us, meet leaders like Frank, and consider putting yourself humbly in a world where you're going to be around other business owners that are going to refine you.
And here's my plug. I've been part of Acumen for 2 years. And when I first entered Acumen, I was like, what am I doing? I'm the only nonprofit leader sitting at this table. I felt out of place.
Yeah.
And the reality is, it has transformed me as a leader. And I would encourage other nonprofit leaders, if
Mm,
you're listening, to think about joining Acumen because it will truly transform you as a leader and you will not be alone.
you're the best, buddy. Thank
Thanks,
you.
man.
Look forward to seeing you and Carolyn face to face here soon.
That sounds good, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
See ya.